Welcome to another Counselor's Soapbox video. Today's episode, what is complex trauma or complex PTSD? Have you read or heard about complex PTSD? Therapists and researchers have found it useful to treat and study a condition they call complex trauma or complex PTSD. Technically, complex PTSD is diagnosed as PTSD. To understand complex PTSD, we first have to understand how trauma becomes post-traumatic stress disorder. Some people can experience severe trauma, recover, and not develop PTSD. Some of the symptoms of PTSD are normal reactions to experiencing a trauma in the short run. When does trauma become PTSD? If the reaction to trauma is excessive, interferes with having a job, friendships, or relationships, then it first becomes acute stress disorder, which often goes away in about 30 days. So when does trauma become PTSD? When the symptoms continue for long periods of time and they seriously interfere with functioning, the name and diagnosis is changed to post-traumatic stress disorder, commonly known as PTSD. Trauma piled on top of trauma becomes more difficult to heal. Complex trauma or complex PTSD is the result of repeated injuries, each of which creates additional trauma. Complex PTSD is a mental or emotional disorder, but it may be easier to understand if we compare it to a physical example. If you break your leg, go to the hospital, get it treated, it probably will heal. Break that same leg in the same place a second time, and it probably won't heal as well. Multiple emotional traumas are harder to heal also. Where are we likely to see complex PTSD? It frequently arises in children who are abused or neglected over long periods of time. Other places we're likely to see complex PTSD include survivors of sexual assault who are re-assaulted, victims of domestic violence, particularly when the domestic violence goes on over a long period of time. Military personnel who have experienced trauma, returned home, and then are redeployed are at an increased risk with each successive deployment. It's important to understand that you can recover from complex trauma or complex PTSD. People who were traumatized in childhood and then re-traumatized in later life are likely to develop severe and debilitating symptoms, but they can be treated. Complex PTSD is harder to heal. Being injured once is bad enough, but repeated traumatization can result in problems far in excess of those caused by a single trauma. Repeated traumas become progressively harder to heal. Complex trauma adds trauma upon trauma and results in long-term suffering. Because repeated traumas become harder to heal, some researchers have suggested the name of complex trauma or complex PTSD for this condition. It was even proposed as a separate diagnosis, but at this point it's still included under PTSD. Can complex trauma be treated? Absolutely it can, but some treatments make the symptoms of complex trauma worse, particularly in the short run. Some treatments are very effective. Ways to recover from complex trauma will be covered in an upcoming video in this series. What's ahead for the Counselor's Soapbox video channel? More mental health and wellness videos, videos on happiness, creativity, and productivity, and videos about drugs, alcohol, and recovery from using them. If you have enjoyed this video, please click the like button directly below. Comments are always appreciated. To receive new videos in this series or any other, please subscribe. Thanks for watching the Counselor Soapbox video channel. For more information, please visit my blog, counselorsoapbox.com, where you will find 1,700 text articles about mental health, substance abuse, and having a happy life. The David Joel Miller fiction and nonfiction books are available on Amazon. Photos are courtesy of Pixabay Commons and Wikimedia Commons and were shared under the Creative Commons free for commercial use, no attribution required license. Thank you for watching.